Good morning, everyone. I hope you're having a great Sunday morning. I'm going to ask you a question first up. What is your favourite family game? I want to know what your favourite family games are. So why don't you post them in the chat and we'll see what everyone else's favourites are. I've got a couple of our favourites here. We love a bit of Monopoly, so we love playing a bit of Monopoly Deal as a family. That's good fun. My personal favourite is Mario Kart Monopoly. If you haven't played it, highly recommend. And also you can't beat a bit of classic Uno. But I wonder, when you play your family games, has anyone ever said this phrase when somebody finally wins? I'm sure it has been heard. The classic phrase, "That's not fair." That's not fair. We certainly hear that sometimes in our household when people are losing, usually me. Now, I want you to comment now, what is your least favourite household chore? So in the chat, in the comments, what is your least favourite household chore? And I wonder if any of ours are the same. So adults as well, you can play. My personal one is taking out the bins and recycling because it's always smelly, it's always wet. We have a 3-storey house, so I have to go down a bunch of mouldy, slippery steps to get it downstairs. And then the bin juice gets everywhere, it drips all over you, it's horrible. It's usually raining because I always forget to put it out. And you know, sometimes when somebody asks us to do a job or a household chore or a job at school, we can maybe say or just think that phrase again. Oh, that's not fair. That's not fair. And it's usually if we're comparing what we have to do or what's happened to somebody else. Well, we just watched that video about the story of Jonah in the Bible, and we've been looking at that for a few weeks. And as we saw at the end of that video, wasn't it amazing? And isn't it amazing that a whole city that was just doing terrible things changed its ways and turned to follow God? And I wonder, if you were Jonah, how would you have reacted when the whole city totally changed and turned to God? Well, you'd think that Jonah would be really happy. But actually, what happens after the end of that story is what we see is God forgives Nineveh, but Jonah gets in the world's biggest grump. And he starts complaining at God and getting angry at God. And he basically says, that's not fair. And you know what? Jonah was completely right. God wasn't being fair. Do you know, he was doing something far, far better. You see, those people in that city had done lots and lots of terrible things, and they deserved to be punished. But God loved them, and God cared about those people in Nineveh. And he gave them something called grace. It's what the Bible calls grace. That's when he didn't give them what they deserved, because that would have been fair. He could have been fair and given them punishment. Instead, he gave them grace. He gave them something way, way better. He didn't give them punishment, but he gave them forgiveness. He gave them a blessing, and he gave them the chance to know God themselves. And you know, that story just helps me to remember, every time I have that thought, that's not fair. It helps me remember how thankful I can be to God that he didn't give me what I deserved. God doesn't give me what's fair. He gives me something better. God didn't give me the punishment I deserve. He gave me grace. He gave me forgiveness. He gave you grace, and he gives you forgiveness if we will choose him. And he gives us that grace and forgiveness because of what Jesus did for us by dying for us on the cross. So maybe take a moment today in your houses, in your families, grown-ups and adults too, just to remember, God doesn't give us what we deserve. He doesn't give us what's fair. He gives us something way, way better. And just take a moment just to say thank you.